Sony dumped hundreds of millions of dollars into Concord just to shut it down after only a few days. It is the biggest failure in the history of the gaming industry, and it's not going to be topped anytime soon. But now we're finding out that somebody affiliated with that game is falling upwards because the failed Concord developer, Professor Brown, has landed a major gig at EA. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I say this all the time, everyone is going to have their own different opinions and views on the world. And that's perfectly fine. Not everybody needs to agree all of the time. But what matters to me is that when you are going to work, you are leaving your personal politics at the door. You are not forcing them upon your coworkers. You're not shoving them into the products that you're creating. And clearly, that is what a lot of the people that were a part of Concord ended up doing. And this Professor Brown individual is clearly one of those people demanding that their coworkers call them by the certain label that they want, and they definitely have a strong presence when it comes to social justice. And now we're finding out that apparently they are landing a major gig at EA. This is a Smash JT article. It says, disclaimer, this article is for informational and commentary purposes only. Please do not harass, contact, or threaten any individual mentioned. I say this all the time. We can criticize these people all day, every day, but we shouldn't go to their social media and talk to them directly, because ultimately anything you say is going to be used against you, and they are going to call anything harassment, and they'll be able to continue to play the victim, and we definitely don't want to give them that ammunition. But it says, here we go in the never-ending spinning revolving door of AAA game development. Another familiar name has reemerged once again. Lisa Brown, or more infamously known as Professor Brown, the former lead developer at Firewalk Studios on the ill-fated live service shooter Concord. You would think that somebody who was leading a project that lost over 500 reportedly $600 million wouldn't just magically get handed an opportunity at another company like EA. Now, of course, there are going to be people that agree with this person and like this person who say, oh, well, clearly that means they're good at their job. No, it doesn't. It means they check off the right boxes, and EA was just looking to hire somebody who fell into those certain categories, and this is just the best of the worst that they could find. Their LinkedIn says they/them, principal game designer specializing in action gameplay systems, game feel systems, design mentorship, and gameplay specific accessibility. According to their now updated LinkedIn profile, Brown has now landed a new gig, this time at Electronic Arts, where she just started working there this month, April 2025, as a principal world designer. So, of course, that means you're going to have oppression at the core of certain societies, and the basis for this world is going to be built around certain themes of like social injustice, and then you're going to have writers who come up with characters who fight that oppression, and then they can have a big sprawling message for a world. Absolute clown show. That's right, after Concord's insane flop in the expected Firewalk Studio subsequent shutdown, on top of a rumored or reported 400, we've heard 400 to 600 million dollars, either way, a lot of zeros, Brown has now officially failed upwards, earning a high-ranking position at another massive publisher. Ironically, it's EA, the very same company that owns BioWare, which of course just went through major restructurings and layoffs because of how terribly business has been going for them, because they dumped hundreds of millions of dollars into specifically Dragon Age the Veilguard, which was a flop for them. So heartbreaking, at least in my opinion, because I used to love Dragon Age. I wasn't so heartbroken about Concord because even though I like hero shooters, I never really thought that it had a lot of potential. There was never a point, whether we saw teasers and trailers or during the development cycle, where I said to myself, you know what, this looks like it actually could have potential. It just was never the case, and I thought it was an absolutely fucking hilarious situation to see that game fail because of how bad the combat was, how mediocre the environments were, and most of the time pretty bad, how terrible character designs and character backstories were, how generic the maps and the abilities were. Like, it just all around felt like a game that cost them $50 million to develop. So I don't know what they were ever thinking, though now this person is working at EA, which of course owns BioWare, and EA is a very scummy company in general. Among those early escapees, Corinne Bush, the former game director of the Veilguard, who somehow promptly landed at Skeleton Key Studios. This is not shocking at all whatsoever. It's not really a somehow situation to me because Wizards of the Coast has been corrupt for like a decade now. They have been completely fucked from the inside out. I mean, look at certain people that they've hired, like Sam Maggs. She was somebody who said that she was graped in GTA during the days of Gamergate 1 because she was hoping to become the next Anita Sarkeesian or Brianna Wu or Zoe Quinn. And now she is still in the game development space, though she's gotten roles because her husband has worked at companies like EA, and she was supposed to be I believe it was senior writer, don't quote me, or at least a writer on the Knights of the Old Republic remake, but then she magically left and went to work at Wizards of the Coast. I say this all the time, Wizards of the Coast can sit in their corner, they can hire the wokest people they want. I would rather have all of the trash in one pile than spread across the industry. These people have nothing except for their politics. They cannot help but shove their political agendas into the content they create, which is why I really have no sympathy when they end up losing their jobs. And I don't like to revel in the fact that people are losing their jobs, but when you suck so much at that job, you probably don't deserve to have it. It says accomplishing nothing but leaving a destruction of studios in their wake, only to then somehow land cushy new roles via their established industry connections. At some point, we need to ask who is hiring these people. People who are like-minded. There are still companies who believe in diversity initiatives. There's a lot of talk right now about big companies, demolishing or abandoning their DEI efforts. There's no shot that's going to happen. What they're going to do is they are going to maybe have the amount of staff members that are in these DEI wings or these DEI counterparts of companies like the DEI branches. They're going to rename them, and then those people aren't really going to be doing much, but they're not going to dismantle these systems completely, because if in 4 years we see a change to the presidency again, and we see a massive political shift, well, then they're going to want to bring those people right back. So we're never going to see these systems completely dismantled. And at the top of the food chain are investors who still, at least in my opinion, are believing in studio heads that are saying, oh, this message will eventually pay off. I like to call it the Bob Iger effect, because Bob Iger does truly believe in the political nonsense that is being pushed in Disney's modern day content. And with that, there are a lot of other CEOs of companies and studio leads that follow in his footsteps that maybe do genuinely believe that one day the message will pay off, but these companies want to have that content available. So if Bob Iger can greenlight 20 series a year and 15 of them are super woke, and then only 5 of them are not, but they make $1 billion, he'll still keep making the 15 other bad series because he thinks one day that catalog will matter. One day people will show up for that content, and, well, we haven't seen that happen yet, and I just don't think that it is going to happen. So, a quick recap on what happened at Firewalk. I think that you all already know Sony went out of their way to buy Firewalk, thinking that Concord was going to be a mega new IP, it was going to be a hit, a smashing success, and that did not end up being the case. After declaring herself non-binary to the world for some reason, Brown reportedly then insisted on being referred to as the professor in the workplace, despite having no academic credentials to back up that title. I'm not going to call this person professor or the professor because they want to cosplay as an academic scholar, because they want to cosplay as this. It's like how people call themselves doctors when they really are not. They have no credentials to back that up. Stupid. According to Smash JT sources, though, company meetings were forced to adapt to her using phrases like teaching and learning with the professor, which reportedly created quite the discomfort amongst team members. This is why I could never work at a company like a Firewalk, because there is no possible way that you could ever get me to refer to someone in this way unless they had the credentials to back it up. But worst yet was, according to his source, Brown allegedly pushed for the firing of any unvaccinated employees at the studio back during the peak of COVID, contributing to what was described as a divisive, fear-based workplace culture where political beliefs trumped merit and cohesion. So really unfortunate to hear that this person apparently had a lot of pull, but was using this kind of influence or the pull that they had to get people fired that they did not agree with. They push for my body, my choice until it comes time for somebody that they disagree with to state that. It's ironic, but not particularly shocking. Now Brown has taken up residence at EA, an environment notorious for its own bureaucratic pitfalls, anti-consumer practices, and shifting DEI initiatives. Will history repeat itself? Possibly. In fact, I'd almost bet on it. It wouldn't shock me, seeing as they came from Bungie, which is an extremely progressive company, to Sony and Firewalk, now to EA. I feel like this person kind of leaves a wake of destruction. Wherever they go, they just kind of touch projects that end up being failures. I don't think that's necessarily just because of them, but it just goes to show the types of people that are being hired for projects, and they just almost never end up being good. So I will be keeping my eye on this situation. Will they come out and make a statement? Who really knows? But as we found out right now, the failed Concord developer, Professor Brown, has landed a major gig at EA, and since EA is already a company people don't have a lot of faith in, I don't think a lot of people are going to be very sad to hear this news or surprised to hear this news, but it just goes to show that the industry really is not changing in the way that some people were hoping it would. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.